Hi, and welcome to this video where we will be attempting the 2020 Edexcel AS level IT Unit 2 past paper. Okay, so reminding you again that this is the 2020 IT Unit 2 past paper that I have over here and that I will be attempting over here. Now, over here, I do have the paper with me. Okay, so the paper is over here with me. Before we do get started, it's important that you have the correct data files with you, because you will be required to be using them. So these are the data files that you will be required to have. And I hope you do have these data files with you so that you will be able to practice with me. Okay. So let's move down. Let's move down to the first question over here. Okay. So you're advised to spend about 60 minutes on this section in section A. And so some questions you will have to write it on the paper itself, while there are certain questions you will have to do it on your computer itself. Okay. Now this first question is a writing question. So I will be typing it over here. It says web pages use HTML and CSS. The purpose of HTML is to create a structure of a web page. What is the purpose of CSS? So we do know CSS stands for cascading style sheets. And when it comes to styling a web page, when it comes to managing the layout of a web page, when it comes to controlling the elements of a web page, we generally use CSS. Okay. So let me just quickly put an answer over here. You can say to control the layout of a web page, CSS is used. Okay, so when it comes to colors, font sizes, font styles, things like this. Okay, when it basically comes to layout, background color, font family, okay, all these things, when it comes to, we generally use CSS, cascading style sheets. Okay, also something else that you can talk about in another way of answering this is you can say to control every element on an HTML web page, CSS can be used. Okay, so this answer is also fine. You can also write, for example, controlling the elements, controlling the appearance of the elements, okay, can be done using CSS. Okay, right. So moving on to the next one over here, it says figure 1 shows how a list of facts about London should be displayed in a browser. The HTML code should display each line with the bullet type shown, display each fact on a new line, and include the citation shown. So the citation you can see over here, it's in italics. Okay, this should be there. Okay, let's see what needs to be done. So this is what it should look like. The page does not display as intended because there are two errors in the HTML code. Okay, so open the file q01b.html in a browser to identify the errors. So let's get started with this. Okay, so q01b, I have it over here. I'm going to open it up over here. And you can see over here, this is what it looks like. I'm going to zoom in so you have a better view of it. Okay, so I have zoomed in. And the first thing that you can notice over here is over here, it's using the bullet type of circles. And over here, it's using disks. Okay, that's one problem. And the second problem you can notice, the citation is not visible. This should be a citation. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up Q01B. I'm going to open it up in Sublime Text. Okay. So I'm going to open up Sublime Text from over here. This is the code editor that I will be using. So here you go. I have Sublime Text over here, and I'm going to drag and drop it over here. Right. So let me make this full screen and let me zoom in so you have a better view of my code. Right. So you can see here the body tag starts. Here we have the heading, and here the unordered list starts. Okay, so right now you can see list style type. There is no type that has been defined. Okay, so if you don't define it, automatically it's going to have bullets. Okay, it's going to have what we call disks. I do not want disks, I want circles. Okay, so I'm going to change this to circle. List style type, I want it to be circled. Okay, so circle. There you go, that's the one. And let's see how it looks in the output. Okay, so when I refresh, you can see this has become circle. And then we need a citation over here. According to our question paper, you can see there is a citation over here. So let me go and see what happened in the code. Facts about, and you can see there's a spelling mistake over here. Okay, it has been closed with cite. Here the E is missing. Okay, so I'm going to put an E here. Now it's complete. Control S. Let's come and refresh our web browser. And you can see now you have done it perfectly. Okay. Right. So with that, then we have now come to the end of the first question. Okay, question 1b, we have done it. We are supposed to save this as q01b finish.html. So let's do that. So I'm going to click on File, Save As, and I'm in the same folder. So q01b finished. Okay, finished. html. Okay, so if you come into your folder, you can find it over here. Q01B finished is also done. Okay, right. Then let's move on to the next one. I hope this particular question made sense to you. I hope you're okay with it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Over here, it says a web page needs to have an iframe. So I hope you know what an iframe is. If you do not, let me quickly give you an example. Let me use iframe from W3 Schools. This is the best example I can give you. So an iframe is when you want an object to be displayed in your web page, in a specific part, you can use iframes. Okay, so for example, can you see over here? Can you see over here? W3 Schools has been loaded inside an iframe. Okay, so it's used to display a web page within a web page. Okay, so over here, I'll give you another example over here. Let me just open this up and show you. Okay, so this is an iframe. Okay, you're displaying an object on your web page separately. Okay, so you can see you use the iframe tag. Okay, so I hope now you have understood what an iframe is. Okay, and now the source of the iframe will be, so the iframe, its content will be originating from this particular URL. And the iframe will have a width of 150 pixels and a height of 350 pixels. Write the HTML code to display this iframe. Okay, so no big deal over here. Let's take our text box. Let's click over here. So an iframe starts with the iframe tag. Okay, and inside this iframe tag, we are going to have certain attributes that is going to define how this iframe is going to work. Okay, so attribute number one that you will have to consider is the URL or SRC. Okay, the source. Okay, where is the content for this iframe going to come? Okay, so SRC, the source is equal to, in double quotes, you will have to type https://www.bridgelon.com. Okay, so this is your source. Do not forget to close your double quotes. Then you have another attribute, which is the width, and then there's another attribute, which is the height. Okay, so width is going to be equal to 150 pixels, close double quotes, and the height is going to be equal to 350 pixels. Okay, that's also done. Now, do not forget that iframe is a container tag. So there is an opening and there is a closing. Okay, so do not forget to also close it. So iframe close. Okay, so you have opened it, you have closed it. Excellent job you have done. Okay, right. If you move on to the next question over here, it says, state what is meant by the term metadata. Okay, so metadata is additional information about a particular web page. Okay, and normally you might have already learned in your classes that metadata is normally used by a search engine to identify a web page. Okay, so there are different types of metadata that we can use. I'm going to quickly show them to you. If you come to W3 Schools and if you type metadata types W3 Schools, okay, this is an excellent site for learning HTML, JavaScript, CSS. Okay, so over here there are different types of meta tags that we can use. Okay, so we have a description, we have keywords, authors, viewport. Okay, not all of them are used only by the search engine, but most of them are used by search engines to discover your web page and to know about your web page. Okay, so for example, if you have a meta with a name description, it is basically a summary of what your web page is about. If you have something called keywords, it is the important words of your web page. Okay, important words about the content of your web page. Okay, then for example, author would tell who created this web page. Okay, and viewport is to do with the web browser displaying your web page. So in simple words over here, if we were to give an explanation, you can say it is additional information about a particular web page. Okay, and you can also, if you want, you can, like, already you have earned your 1 mark, but if you want, you can just add a little more information over here, and you can say this information is mostly used by search engines to discover a web page. Okay, so I hope metadata makes sense. I hope you're okay with this. If you're not okay with it, I would recommend you to go out to W3 Schools, type metadata or type meta tag, and please do read this. Okay, it will be of a lot of use to you. Okay, right. If you move on to the next one over here, it says figure 2 shows HTML code. So a part of HTML code has been shown to you, and you can see inside the head tag, the meta tag has been opened, and the name it's using is description, and there is some content. So explain the purpose of the HTML code on line 3. So over here, it is generating a description, or it is giving us a short description of what this particular web page is about. So when a search engine is searching for web pages that are, for example, related to London, it can discover this web page. It will know, for example, what this web page is about. Okay, so let's put these into words. You can say line 3 provides a summary description, a summary or a short description, you can say, short description of what this particular web page content is about. Okay, and you can go on to say this is useful for search engines to know what a web page contains. Okay, so this is useful for, okay, so let me also just show you what W3 School says about description over here. I think we should have it over here. So over here, where do we have the description part? Normally they would have explained, I cannot find it over here. They would have explained what description is for, but define a description of your web page. That's all they have said over here. But I hope you have understood what I have said. Okay. So we are also done with this total question number 1 has now come to an end. We are now done with question number 1. Let's move on to question number 2 then. So over here it says browsers use HTML and CSS to display web pages. CSS code can be referenced within HTML documents by using style sheets. Okay, I hope you have understood the question. When it comes to creating a web page, you can use 2 languages. One is HTML to what you call create your content, and then you can use CSS to control the layout of your web page. Okay, I hope you're familiar with this. So CSS code can be referenced within HTML documents by using style sheets. Explain one difference between an external style sheet and an internal style sheet. So an external style sheet, what we do know is it's a completely separate CSS file that is then embedded into our HTML document. Okay, I hope you do remember. If you use an external style sheet, you do your entire CSS coding in a completely separate file. While in internal style sheets, your styling is done in the HTML document itself. Okay, inside the HTML document itself, you do your styling. Okay, so that's one major difference that we can talk about. You can say in external style sheets, okay, you can say CSS code is written in a separate file, and then linked to a HTML web page. Okay. Okay, while for internal style sheets, the CSS code is written inside the HTML document itself. Okay, so one more thing that just came up in my mind is when you use an external style sheet, since it's a completely separate file, you can link this file to multiple web pages. However, in internal style sheet, since you're typing your CSS coding inside one HTML page, you cannot link it to multiple HTML web pages. Okay, I hope that does make sense to you. If it doesn't, you know the resource by now. Okay, go on to W3 Schools and just type, or go on to Google even and type internal style sheets versus external style sheets, and just put W3 Schools. That's an excellent resource that you can use that will explain to you the difference. Okay, there is also one more type. You have internal, you have external, and then there's one more which is called inline. And if you do not know inline style sheets, I would highly recommend go and check it out. What is inline style sheets? Okay, right. A web page contains a heading. The heading must have a red, white, and blue linear gradient background. Okay, which means a mix of these 3 colors. Okay, a 3-pixel red border, center aligned text, padding of 20 pixel. Okay, I hope you do know what padding is. Padding is the gap between the text and the border. That's what we call padding. Okay, so open file Q02B in HTML in your editor. amend the CSS code to implement the heading. So let's go and have a look at it. Let's open up Q02B. We are going to open it up. Q02B is over here. Right now we see the text. This is London, but we don't see any CSS styling that has been applied to it. Okay. So I'm going to drag and drop my file into Sublime Text. Let me smaller. Let's do a drag and drop over here. So here we come. Right. So here you can see the HTML text is over here. This is London. The text is there. Now over here we have our CSS styling. And now you should be telling me that this is what we call internal style sheets. Okay, where you're styling it inside this particular HTML document itself. Okay, right. So over here, the first thing that we needed to do was you can see over here, let me bring this to a side. We need red, white, and blue linear gradient background. Okay, so right now, background image is linear gradient, but it's only red. Only red color has been applied. Okay, so we need to add the remaining two colors, which is white and blue. So let's put comma white. Let's put comma blue. Okay, so the remaining two colors were also added. Then we need a 3-pixel red border. Okay, so I do hope you remember. Need to add one more property, which is border, and the border needs to be 3-pixel solid red. Okay, we need it to be a straight line now, 3-pixel red border. Okay, so solid red. Okay, that's also done. Then next, what do we need? Center aligned text. So all the text in H1 should be center aligned. So let's go into text align. We want it to be center. Anything else that we need to do? Padding of 20 pixels, very simple. Padding, we want it to be 20 pixels. So that's also done. Let's go and refresh our web page. And when you refresh it, you can see the following has been applied. Okay, so you have red, white, blue. They are all applied in a linear fashion. Okay, so this question is also done. Okay, I hope I'm not going too fast. Okay, let's go and see what we need to do next. So you need to save your amended code as q02b finish.html. So let's come over here, file, save as q02b finished.html. Okay, right. So we have also saved this. Then it goes on to say, a web page contains two animations that, let me just make this a little smaller. It's too small. A web page contains two animations that show traffic moving across the web page. The first animation moves an image from left to right. The second animation moves another image from right to left. Okay, these 2 points make sense, right? First animation goes from left to right. Second animation goes from right to left. The first animation has already been completed. The second animation should move the image left-facing.jpg across the page from right side to the left side along the same path as the first animation. The image must start off from an off-screen position. Off-screen, it should be off the screen when it starts. Okay. Open the file q02c.html in your editor. Amend the code to complete the second animation. Okay. So q02c, I have it over here. So it's over here in this particular folder. You can see there are two animations that you will have to be working with. There are two images which you will be making it look like an animation. Okay. So when you open it, they already told us that one is done. So you can see the first image, it's moving from left to right. Now what you need to do is you need to move this particular image from right to left. And do remember the starting position is off screen. Off screen means from outside it's appearing. If you look at the first image, when it moves, it comes from outside. You see, from outside and then it goes. Okay, and it's moving from left to right. This particular image needs to move from right to left. Now, I haven't seen the coding yet, and I'm going to just open it up right now. But you can already see the first part has been done for you. So you will just have to do the opposite second part. Okay, the first one is from left to right. Second image is supposed to be from right to left. Okay, so now itself you understand. Okay, it doesn't look too difficult because the first part has been done for you. The second part will basically be the opposite of whatever the first is. So let's have a look at the code. Let's do a drag and drop. So I have my folder over here. Let's drag this code and drop it over here. Let's zoom out a little bit so we have a better idea. So you can see over here, once again, internal style sheets have been used. Okay, so there's something called dot vehicle, animated, vehicle one. So these are class names. And over here, okay, so right now it looks confusing. Let's start with the HTML part, and then we'll come on to the CSS part. So HTML is right at the bottom. You can see we have the heading, we have a paragraph over here, okay, and then we have two images. So right facing.jpg, left facing.jpg. Now, according to our question paper, left facing.jpg moves from right to left, okay? So the first animation, which means which image are we supposed to be working on? The second animation should move the image left facing. So we need to be working with left facing, which is this particular image. Okay, we need to be working with this image. And this particular image has the following CSS classes, which is vehicle, vehicle2, and animated. Okay, so let's deal with it. So let's try and understand how right-facing image is working, which is this one. Let's first understand how this image is working, and then we'll just copy and paste it and do the opposite. Okay, so let's come over here. You can see right-facing image uses vehicle. Let's go and have a look at vehicle. So you can see vehicle is over here. Position is absolute. Display is block. Width is 400 pixels. Okay. So display block means show it. And the width of this particular area is 400 pixels. Okay. You can see the same class is also used for left facing image. So we don't need to do anything for now. Vehicle one, you can see over here, we have the coding for the CSS coding for vehicle one. And you can see left minus 400 pixels. So it has been placed. Now this, if you can see my cursor, this is the left of the screen. This is the left of the screen. So minus 400 means it has gone all the way inside. Okay, so it's going to start from inside, it's going to start, and then it's going to appear over here. It's minus 400. Okay. And then the animation name is move right, which means start from inside 400 and then move right. Okay, you're following my cursor, right? And then over here, the animation has been explained. Keyframe, move right, it has been explained. So from where? Start from the left, minus 400, which is all the way inside. And then move to the left 100%. 100% to the left means all the way up to here. You follow my cursor, right? So move from the left all the way up to here. Shall we go and see if it's actually happening? Let's refresh our web page. Watch, okay? It's going to start from inside and move all the way to the left 100%. So when I refresh, there you go. From inside, it starts and goes all the way to the left 100%. It moves from left to right. Now we are supposed to do right to left. Okay, so over here, our coding comes over here, vehicle 2, and you can see the vehicle 2 class has been applied over here. Right, so let's start. So vehicle 2, there is a delay of 3 seconds. And now below this, I'm going to type my code. Now I need to move not from the left, I need to move from the right. Okay, so from in, and you also remember, right? I said off screen, which means it needs to start from outside the screen, it needs to start. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this and do the exact opposite. Control C, Control V over here. So left, it won't be left, it's going to be right. Okay, I want it to start from the right, from inside the screen, minus 400. And I want it to move from right to left. So not move right, move left. Need to move left. Now over here, I need to explain how the animation is going to work. Okay, I need to give the coding of how these frames are going to work. Okay, so once again, no big deal. Just copy and paste this. Control C, come here. Control V. So not from left, I want it to start from the right, and I want it to go all the way to the, so this is left 100%, this is going to be right 100%. To go all the way to the right 100%. Okay, so seems like everything is okay right now. Let's save this. Is there anything else we need to do? Let's have a look at animated. Animated is already done for us. Okay, so if you read the animated class, you can see over here it has a property called animation duration, which is 3 seconds. So the animation goes on for a period of 3 seconds. Animation iteration count. Okay, so here we have something called animation iteration count, which means how many times is it going to repeat? It's going to repeat only once. Okay, animation timing function, which is linear, which means going to happen one after the other. Okay, right. So let's save this. Okay, and let's come and refresh our web page. And now you see this moves from left to right, and then that moves from right to left. Okay, so job done. Your work is done over here. Okay, if you didn't, guys, I would recommend go through this particular part again. Stop the video, rewind, watch this part again. Okay, and what do we need to do next? we need to save this as q02c finish.html. So file save as q02c finished.html. There you go, that is saved. Then we move on to the next one over here. Let's move on to the next question that we have over here. So here it says figure 3 shows two images used on a web page. When a user hovers over image A, I hope you do know what hovers means. Hovers means you keep the mouse or you keep the cursor on top of this image. That's what they call a hover. Okay. So when a user hovers over image A, image B replaces image A. So when I put the cursor on top of this, automatically whatever image B is appears over here. Okay. When the user is no longer hovering, which means I have taken the cursor away from the image A replaces image B. Okay. So I hope you understand the explanation over here. So figure 4 shows the HTML and CSS code that enables this to happen. So you can see there is a class here called .imageContainer. Position is relative, inline block, image, the width is 200, 263, image B. Display none means what? Do not display it, okay? So class image B is none, okay? Then there's another class image container, hover of image B, okay? Another class we have here, image container, which is this one. And then on hovering of image B, what happens? Display block. Display block means show it. Position is absolute, okay? Top 0, from the top 0 pixel gap, and from the left 0 pixel gap, okay? Now over here, you can see the class image container is here. Here you can see image A is there, okay? And over here, we have image B that has been inserted over here. Right. Now, what is the question asking us to do? Describe how the CSS code on lines 16 to 25 work together to show and hide image B. So let's get started with this. Line 16. What does line 16 do? So line 16 is the class, okay, for image B. Okay. So shall we note that down? You can see over here, we have given a class name, which is image B, and that very class, we have defined it over here. Okay. So let's say in line 16, in oops, it's not visible. Let's try again. Having a small problem with my to delete this. Let's take this text tool. Okay. Okay, now it's working. So we can mention line 16. Line 16. What does line 16 do? You can say in line 16, the image, you can say image B class is created. Image B class is created. Then what happens in line 17? Okay, so in line 17, you can say the image is not being displayed during normal times. Okay, during normal times, the image is not being displayed. Okay, you can see over here image B. Image B is this. So normally it is not displayed, which is why here it says display none, do not display it. Okay, and you can say line 17, image B is not displayed. Again, just give me a second, guys. I'm gonna sort this out. So let's continue with this. I think now it's all right. So in line 17, you can say image B is not displayed. Okay, display none means do not display it. Then in image in line 20, you can say image B class is referenced upon hovering taking place. Okay, upon the user hovering over it. So let's note that down over here. In line 20, image B class is referenced upon hovering taking place. Upon hovering taking place. Okay. And also you might wonder, well, what is this image container? Image container is this particular one where it's going to display. Okay, the image is going to be displayed. Okay, so which image? It's saying image container. Upon hovering, image B. Okay, it's calling up the image B. Which one is image B? Image B is over here. Okay, so let's note that down over here. Image B class is referenced upon hovering taking place. Okay, then in line number 21, you can say line 21, image B is displayed. Okay, image B is displayed because it says display block, which means show it. Okay, and position absolute. Okay, absolute means, you know, whatever the positioning of this image container is right now relative now. So based on the positioning of this image container, the positioning of image B will take place. Okay, I hope you know about div tags, absolute, relative, how they work. Okay, so right now you can see top, do not keep a gap, left, no gap. Okay, so you can say image B is displayed, and then line 23 and 24, line 23 and line 24 define the position, of where the image B would be displayed. Okay, right. And is there anything else? Line 23 and 24. Line 23 and 24. Okay, defines the position of where the image B would be displayed. Okay, right. So with that, we have come to the end of this. We can explain how these lines of code work. It does make sense to you. Okay, so during normal times, image A is what's displayed. Okay, so during normal times, you can see image. Okay, it will be 200 pixels by 263 pixels. Okay, and it would be displayed. Okay. However, when the user hovers over it, now we start focusing on this area. When the user hovers over it, then image B class, which is over here, image B, will be displayed. Display block means display. Position absolute. Absolute means follow this same. Okay, 200 pixels by 263 pixels. Based on this, you know, display the image. Top 0, so no gap from the top. Okay, from the left, no gap. Okay, so it will be displayed right there. Okay, but once the user takes the cursor away, then hover is off, so it will go back to displaying image. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of question number 2. Okay. Moving on to question number 3. Now we move on to a JavaScript question over here. Okay. So regular expressions can be used to validate user input. This is an example of a regular expression. Okay, so this is what we call a format check, where we define a pattern, and using this pattern, we define the characters that the user has to enter and in what order they have to enter it. So you can see over here, if you look at this expression over here, would validate user input to ensure it matches this format. So A to Z, it means one uppercase character. Then A to Z2 means two lowercase characters. You can see A to Z, both are in lowercase. Okay, so A to Z, two characters. Then /D3 means 3 digits, that are numbers from 0 to 9. Then AOB, okay, one of the characters AOB. And then Q, one or more Q characters can be entered. So examples have been given that are valid based on this pattern. Okay. Now, this is another regular expression. Now, if you look at this expression over here, you can see the first letter needs to be capital E or capital R. Then it has to be A to Z, one character from A to Z. Then it has to be one or more characters from uppercase A to Z. Is it clear? One or more characters from uppercase A to Z, and then 4 digits. Okay, 4 digits thereafter. So give 2 reasons why the input W. Okay, so why would this input fail? So you can say the first thing is the first character has to be uppercase E or R, while we have W over here. So let's mention that over here. You can say the first character should be E or R, uppercase E or R. Another reason can be the second character Okay, the second character should be a lowercase character. Okay. Another problem that we could also see over here, the third character should be an uppercase character, but here the third character is a lowercase character. So you can also mention that. The third character should be an uppercase character. Okay, right. Let's move on to the next question then. So I hope you're okay with this pattern over here. Okay, this is how you can set a pattern for user input. Okay. Right, moving on to the next one over here. Write a regular expression that will validate user input. It must ensure the input begins with 1 digit. So the first character starts with 1 digit. So let's put that over here. So we need the forward slash. Okay, so forward slash is over here. And we need a digit. And we need it to be only 1. So you can say 1, or you can just keep it D. That means 1. Is then followed by 4 uppercase characters. Uppercase. So I'm going to open square brackets, uppercase, capital A to capital Z. Okay, and it has to be how many? 4. Only 4 allowed. And then is then followed by the digit 0 or 1. So I'm going to open brackets and say 0 or 1. Okay, close brackets. And then followed by 1 or more lowercase characters. Okay, so I'm going to open lowercase now, A to Z. So 1 or more. So I'm going to put the plus symbol over there. 1 or more lowercase character. Okay, so I hope you're okay with this. I hope you're okay with pattern. Okay, right. If you look at the next one over here, it says open file q03c.html in your editor. The JavaScript code contains an incomplete function for registering tour guides. So let's open this first, q03c. So we'll open this up. Okay, so we see over here we have a form, we have a register button, there's an alert popping up. We'll see what needs to be done. Right. So when we come to our code over here, it says the JavaScript code contains an incomplete function for registering tour guides. When the details of a tour guide are input and the register button is clicked, a new guide object is created to display the details, and the form should be cleared. Amend the HTML code and the JavaScript code to complete the function. Okay, so let's come over here. I didn't open it in Sublime Text. So Q03C, drag and drop. We open it in Sublime Text, and let's zoom out slightly. Now, when you look over here, let's first have a look at the HTML part of this document. So you can see there is a heading called new guide, then there is a form, and this form has an ID called guide form. Okay, then there is a field set style, then there is a paragraph, then there is an input field, and this input field is having an ID of input ID. There's another paragraph, and there's another input field with the ID input last name, another paragraph, and then there is an input field with the input ID first name. Then we have a button, and when this button is clicked, add guide function is called. Okay, so when this event, if on click is an event, okay, and the event handler is add guide. Okay, add guide is a function name. Okay, so you can find add guide over here. Add guide is over here. Okay, the function add guide is here. So you need to put the coding on how add guide is going to work. Okay, now before you look at this, let's have a look at the top. At the top, we have another function which is called guide. And in guide, there are 3 parameters that are being passed: GID, LN, and FN. These 3 parameters are equal to 3 different variables. GID is equal to this dot guide ID, the LN is equal to this dot last name, and FN is equal to this dot FN. Okay. Now, if it's confusing, just wait with me, okay, for some time. You can see now we have a function here. We have 3 parameters, and these 3 parameters are equal to 3 different variables. Then you can also see there's another function, okay, this display guide function. Inside it, you can see there's a variable called display. And what does display do? Display is equal to the following text, and then the following text is concatenated with this guide ID. Last name concatenated with this last name. First name concatenated with this first name. They have kind of, made the coding so confusing. Okay, but just bear with me, and you may have to watch this maybe 2-3 times to get it. Okay, now let's make it simple for ourselves. And then it says return display. Okay, we'll see what happens now. Now, over here, you can see add code to get the input. Okay, so inside this function, the moment the user clicks, add guide is going to be called. No, add guide function is going to be called. So when addGuide is called, the function should be able to get the values from the input boxes. So I'm going to use the document object model, which we know of, document.getElementById. by ID. I'm going to use document.getElementById by ID to get the values from each of these input boxes. Okay, what are the input boxes? We're talking about these three input boxes. Okay, so I'm going to use document.getElementById by ID to get the values from each of these input boxes. Okay, and when I get the value from each input box, I'm going to assign it to a variable name. Okay, let me show you what I'm going to do over here. So I'm going to create a new variable, and this variable is going to be called, I'll use the same name, input ID. And this input ID is equal to document.getElementById. Okay, we need to make it simple L. Okay, element by ID. Okay, and the ID I'm talking about is this particular ID. Okay, I want to get the value from here. Okay, so we put it in double quotes. Put this in double quotes. Okay, and I want to get its value. So end dot value. Okay, so whatever value is input in this input box, okay, which is basically this input box. Okay, whatever value is input inside this input box is going to go into variable input ID. Okay, right. So I'm going to do the same for the other two fields as well. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste instead of typing it each time. So Control C, Control V. Instead of input ID, I'm going to call this input last name. Input last document.getElementById input last name. So I can copy this again. Okay, I'm talking about this ID. Okay, and let's do this again. Let's copy and paste this again. Now I need input first name. So Control C, Control V, Control V. Okay, right. So I have managed to get the values from each of the input fields. I have managed to get the value, and what I have done is I have assigned those values to separate variables. Okay, now variable new guide is equal to new guide, and over here we are going to pass the parameters. So you can see over here we have guide now. Over here we have guide. Okay, so here we have GID parameter, LN parameter, FN parameter, which basically means GID is the input ID, LN is the last name, FN is the first name. Okay, so over here I'm going to pass the variables that will have the data for these three. So right now I'm going to pass the arguments for these three. Okay, so GID is held by whom? Is held by input ID. So Control C, Control V, comma. LN is held by whom? LN is held by input last name. Control C, Control V. FN is held by whom? FN is held by input first name. So Control C and Control V. Okay, Control V. Okay. So now what happens is after I get the values, I'm then going to call the function guide. Okay, I'm going to call the function guide and I'm going to pass these three arguments. These three arguments values are going to be what? Input ID is whatever the user input as his ID. Input last name is whatever the user typed as his last name. Input first name is whatever the user typed as his first name. Now what happens is these values will go over here now. When it goes over here, what happens? GID, which is now input ID, will be equal to this guide ID. Input last name, which is now, sorry, LN, which is now input last name, will be equal to this dot last name. Input first name will now be equal to this is first name, this dot first name. Then what happens? Then it displays now. When it displays, what does it do? It will display this text and then concatenate with this dot guide ID. This dot guide ID is where? It's over here. Okay, and I hope you do remember this guide ID will be equal to GID, which is input ID. Okay, I hope you are following with me on how this works. Okay, they have kind of made the code complicated. Okay, it could have been a lot simpler, but you know, they're testing you, so they have made it a lot more complicated than necessary. Okay, now there's one more thing that needs to be done. I need to reset the form. Okay, once the user enters the values and the values are displayed, thereafter the form needs to automatically reset. It means it should not display anything thereafter. So it should allow for somebody to enter a new value. So what we do over here is I'm going to call the form using the document object model. I'm going to call the form using document.getElementById. And the ID of my form is guide form. So I'm going to copy and paste this. Control C, Control V. and I want this particular form to be reset. So there's a function called reset dot reset, and remember, since it's a function, you have to put what do you call your brackets at the end. Okay, right. So let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. Let's come and refresh. So when I come and refresh, I'm going to put 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put my last name. I'm going to put my first name. And when I click on register, it displays everything. Okay. Guide ID is 1, 2, 3. Last name is Mohsin. First name is Ahmad. And when I click on OK, remember this form should reset. So when I click on OK, it didn't reset. Why didn't it reset? Okay. So document.getElement by ID. Okay. Now let's check it and see. Let's try again. 1, 2, 3. Register, say okay, there you go, the form has reset. Okay, so this also seems to be working without a problem. Right, moving on to, so how do we save this? We are supposed to save this as q03 finish.html. So we go into file, we go into save as q03 finished.html. There you go, that is also saved. And then what do we do next? It says a window has been opened using JavaScript code. Write the HTML and JavaScript code that will close the window when a button is clicked. Okay, so window means basically this is one window. Okay, tab is one window. So we need to have a button. When I click on it, this particular tab, for example, will close. Okay, right. So we need to use HTML and JavaScript, which means we need to have a button. Okay, we will definitely need a button. Okay, I need a button. And in this button, I have to display the text, for example, close. Okay, and a button is a container tag, so there is a closing as well. Now, what we do need to remember is we need to have a function which will close. Okay, so I'm going to create an event. I'm going to have an event called onClick. Okay, onClick. I want this to call the function called window dot close. Okay, so when the user clicks on it, this particular function window.close will be called. And what does window.close do? Window.close is already a built-in function. It's an already defined function. Okay, it's a built-in function in JavaScript, which basically will close the window. Okay, so the current window will close. With that, we have come to the end of this question as well. Okay, so you can say close window or close button or whatever. Okay, the text doesn't matter. The most important thing is the function. You properly define the function. Okay, sorry, you get the correct spelling of your function. Okay, window.close. Okay, right. So with that, we have come to the end of this question as well. Okay, give one benefit of using comments within JavaScript code. So then it makes your coding a lot more meaningful, right? When you put comments, you have a better understanding of what your code does, especially when you look at it many days later or many months later, isn't it? You can say comments make the code a lot more meaningful, and easier to understand, especially when the user comes back to the code many days later. Okay, so when you come back many days later, you will be so you'll be appreciating the fact that you put proper comments, because then you can understand your code, because you're going to forget what code does. Okay, so when you come back many days later, and if there are comments stating what each line does, it makes it a lot easier for you to quickly grasp how the code works. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of question number 3. Right, so we then move on to question number 4. Okay, so here we come over here to section B. Okay, so in section B, we have a big question over here. Let me remove these over here. Okay, so you're advised to spend about 120 minutes on this section, answer all questions in this section. Some questions will require to save code in a specific form, a specified format. Okay, so we will be doing question number 4 now. Okay,